You have to dig deeper and unearth stories and have a lot of heart in your content. Now, a lot of brands make empty gestures when it comes to Pride Month, but there are some that do it very well.
In episode 55 of the Employer Content Marketing Pod, I chat with Meetjord. Meetjord has been in social media since his days at Coventry University and Aston University. He's been head of social at a TikTok agency, and he's recently joined the social media team at Moonpig. And with Pride Month happening last month, he has a lot to say about how brands should get involved in LGBTQ+ campaigning. We provide some insights and tips about how to keep your marketing meaningful and relevant in a world dominated by social media. And we talk about how brands can avoid rainbow washing with truly meaningful actions. We also get a first-hand view into the entertainment extravaganza that is the Eurovision Song Contest. Let's get on with the chat. Hi, Meetjord. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Happy Friday. It's good to grab some time. It's our green room chat. We realise it's been quite a long time since the days we worked together.
4 or 5 years, I think.
Goodness gracious! I said it was last time I saw you like in person was at McDonald's at 6 o'clock in the morning at the Heist Awards after a higher education marketing awards do in Manchester. That was good times. But
that was a good booze up that night in Manchester. It really was.
I lost my voice the next day. Oh my goodness, I was not in a good way the next day.
That may have been because I led you into a bar in Manchester called Thompson's on Canal Street, or just off Canal Street. It's one of our favourite gay bars, and the vodka in there is renowned for being like paint stripper, and it was like
really
double. That's probably why. That might be why you lost your voice.
I did wonder why, because it's not like I was singing much that night. So
not the fact that you had 20 nuggets at 6 a.m. Not you having a dry throat because of having a Mackies. No,
brilliant. So for those who don't know, George, let's just do a bit of an intro about yourself. Let's tell listeners about yourself.
So I'm Meetjord. I've worked in social for 10 years now. Both worked in-house and agency side. Worked on some huge brands such as Purple Bricks, Genting, Furniture Village, Royal Mint, Nestle, to name a few. Obviously, the role of social has changed from when I started out writing tweets for B2B brands to now managing huge budgets for paid ads and working with some incredible content creators and seeing new platforms come and some go. And obviously, in the last 2-3 years, we've seen TikTok just take over.
Oh my goodness, take over everything.
Yeah. And I think TikTok is going to be here to stay. I think it's going to have a 100%. Very similar trajectory to what Meta platforms have had in the past. But the role I've done and the role that I previously did has now completely changed. So the role of social media manager used to be probably that of about 8 or 9 different people, all amalgamated into one. Now it's brands are finally starting to see the need to have a social media person to oversee stuff, and then have someone to be a copywriter, to be run paid, to run content creation, to run a studio, to run the customer service side, to run brand reputation. There's so many different facets to social now, which is quite exciting. And I think this is where brands still haven't woke up to realize the power of social, and they're still putting money into channels that they're just spaffing money at the wall or throwing it out the window. And and if you're going to do that, what's the point? You may as well just invest in a bigger social media team. Yes, I am biased, always will be, but this is where
it's true.
The power is. This is how your brand communicates now.
It's true. It's that you always go where the people are. You can't ignore the fact that the most popular internet platform, internet space on the internet is TikTok. You can't get past that at all.
But that's the role TikTok now plays in our daily lives. It's our new search engine. It's a platform of discovery. And I think people don't necessarily realize that yet. you know, I went to Eurovision in Torino, and before I went, I didn't go on Google or any such other search engine to find out where to go during our downtimes, what to see, you know, restaurants, bars to go to. I went on TikTok and it pulled out some absolutely incredible coffee shops, some brilliant independent shops, some brilliant restaurants to go to in the evening.
Nice.
The best place for an Aperol Spritz in Torino, you know, little things like
Yeah.
this, quiet gardens away from the hustle and bustle. And we visited some, a lot of places we didn't get to visit because Eurovision took over, but this is where people are going to find out very simple things now. You know, we've seen people learn how to dance on TikTok, learn new recipes, learn cleaning hacks. You know, now it's about travel, it's about wanderlust. The world's opened up again. Right? How can we manipulate TikTok for that? And that it's about the visualization and trying to get a window into somewhere. And yes, people still use TikTok and dance on it and do all the trends and stuff, and that's brilliant, and it'll always have a place. That's what will never die on TikTok. But people are starting to wake up to it now, and you know, I have elderly relatives that have TikTok accounts that just to watch, not to create anything, thank God, just to watch stuff, and that's where we're moving to. And I think if brands aren't opening up and wising up to that, then they're going to get left behind. And I think monetarily they'll suffer because people want to be on there, and people are on there, and they're going away to different platforms now.
It's not like it's history repeating itself, isn't it? Is that, you know, new platforms come along, okay, some much bigger than others, but you know, they are adopted by younger generations, and then they do branch out into older generations, and they become more than what they were to start with, like Instagram, for example. Beautiful photography, you know, that's pretty much it. But then it became, you know, so much more. So it is strange how kind of the mistakes of the past by brands haven't been learnt by going, wow, okay, this platform really is blowing up at the moment, and it doesn't look like it's a one-hit wonder, you know. So let's put money into it. Why is that hesitation? Why don't enough more brands jump onto a platform like TikTok?
I think because they're so used to traditional digital marketing metrics from channels like display and search and VOD and things like that. Because although VOD is still, you know, a fairly newer format for brands to use or to have in your inventory, social isn't that new anymore. And I still think there's a big hesitancy because a lot of people still don't know how to track social properly. So whether you should be measuring ROI, whether you should be measuring reach, impressions, link clicks, number of products sold, the amount you've sold, or whatever it may be. What defines success for one doesn't define success, or isn't how you define success for another brand. And I think because every brand's need on social is so different, and there's so many different platforms to use, I don't think a lot of brands necessarily know how to do social. And I think there's a natural hesitancy to be like, right, so do we do Facebook? Do we do LinkedIn? Do we do TikTok? Do we do Snapchat or YouTube or Instagram or Twitter? And I think because they had that hesitancy, they go, oh, it's just easier to do nothing and put and realign that budget to other channels. You know, every brand will have PPC because it's a necessity. They'll have generics, and then they'll have their other strategies, and that's just as important. But at the end of the day, social is where you're communicating to every single day. It is the heartbeat of your comm strategy, or it should be. People are there's still so many brands that are still faffing around over press releases to newspapers. And yes, okay, that may still have a place, but at the end of the day, you can scrap all that, do a quick 20-second TikTok, 20-second video, put it out on social, and let your community decide how they're going to react to it, and let them be the gatekeepers now. And I think if you're not doing that, then you're getting left behind. And we're starting to see younger people become more politically aware. Younger people become more socially aware of the world that they're in, and becoming more opinionated. And I think older generations don't like the fact that younger people aren't afraid to say what they think anymore, and hence the term wokery, which
it's true.
I
Very
think
true.
is an absolute load of nonsense. I think
Yeah.
the woke people are the people that are fearful of the younger people and the younger generations, not the other way around. And brands aren't scared to get involved in issues, debates, things that matter to their audiences anymore. And they are starting to have a voice and use their platforms.
It's true, actually. I think there's that thing of, I mean, God, woke in itself is actually positive, although it's being taken as a negative now, isn't it? But I think there's that thing about a reluctance to accept, I suppose, an aggravation toward people having an opinion, or no, so question the way that things have been done before. Well,
Yeah.
that's the way it happened to me, so I don't see why others shouldn't go through that. But what is great now is, I think, as each generation comes along, their platform to discover and share things becomes so much more powerful, which means they are confident in sharing things. Literally think about, my goodness, people are born this century who have left university. It's crazy to think that, but they are used to having a camera in their pocket. They're used to creating content. They are content creators. And actually, I think you, back in the days of Aston University, you used your students to create a good chunk of the content, didn't you? Because you knew that they knew the platforms and they knew themselves. So.
I mean, when I did that role, I was in my mid-20s, so I was only 4 or 5 years older than them myself. So not that much older, but in terms of how they've grown up and their university experience, completely different to what mine was like. I went to university when we started to have more cameras on phones, and this was in 2009, by the way, and people started to use phones as more of an everyday tool versus just to pick up and have a chat or send a message. We had more things to do on our phones. Whereas being at Aston, one of the things I realized very quickly, having joined at the same time as Dawn, who was the head of marketing there, who I worked with for 2 years, we quickly realized that Aston had an authenticity problem and it was very cold. So the only way to turn that around was to get a load of students, build our digital ambassadors team out to, I think at its height, we had 22, all doing work and producing content and other things. And was to give them a platform to shine and to show off an authentic student life on Aston's campus and in Birmingham. One of the biggest things people didn't know about Aston prior to coming to visit on an open day was they didn't realize that Aston's campus was in the middle of Birmingham city centre. And it's a 5-minute walk to the Bullring, and it's a 10-minute walk to New Street. And, these silly little things which you should put front and center in your prospectuses, in your content. And we completely flipped that around. We changed the branding and how we were going to approach social. We added more colors to things. We gave students more autonomy with their own content creation. We didn't try to filter anything. We didn't try to edit too much. And it created a platform to the extent of we were able to offer places on results day through social media, through initially with Facebook and Instagram, and then Twitter. And then the following year that evolved into WhatsApp as well, which was brilliant for us. We got a load of students through the door. And I think the power of that was summed up for me when I went on a UCAS, had to go and work on a UCAS fair with a recruitment team in September of 2018, and students coming up to us and saying, "Oh, we follow you on Instagram. Oh, we follow you on Snapchat. We've seen the Freshers Week stories. We've seen your student version of Come Dine With Me," which I still can't believe we did, but we did. It was brilliant.
Love it. It's fun as well.
And stuff like that. And that just completely changed how that university did social media. And I think it changed a few opinions and attitudes towards social internally as well. Because that was the other side of the job, which was just as difficult, was fighting the internal battles. Because the thing you encounter that I don't think a lot of people realize is everyone's got an opinion when it comes to social. because they have their social media in their pocket every day.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand is you don't use social personally as the same you do professionally, or for your brand or a platform that you look after. So everyone's got an opinion on it, and it's very visible. You can't hide your work if you're managing social platforms because everyone can see it. So it's really difficult. It is such a tough balancing act, and you are constantly fighting battles. You're constantly trying to change attitudes, to change opinions, and that's the part of the role that I never really enjoyed. I've never enjoyed is trying to prove why social. I shouldn't have to prove anything with social media. It just is. It's the best platforms you have, so bloody well use them. You know, and it strikes me and it shocks me at how many people still don't get that. The penny still hasn't dropped.
Well, it's yeah, absolutely. It's kind of I mean, there's lots of phrases around, isn't there? But kind of that social first mindset, and then you build everything else around it. There's not to say that, of course, in person events are still important. Doing something on this platform is important, or even having a place for prints. It's got a QR code in it, whatever. It still has a place to play, but it's wrapped around that kind of mindset of social, which is different. And yeah, I mean, I think working with you at Aston was great because you guys clearly understood that, and it's ultimately you were saying about when people came to you at that UCAS event. They I've seen seen Aston on Instagram. Is that they're not really following a brand, they're following a people, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the experiences they have. So I think that's
experiences now. Yeah. And in my most recent role as I was head of social media at a TikTok agency, and we ran a higher education report, and we spoke to a lot of different universities, and within that report, working on that with the wider team, it became clear that prospective students aren't following universities for anything other than the experiences that university is portraying. So through their student content creators, and a lot of universities have the freedom on TikTok to create whatever they want, to go with the trends. But whereas some are very much, no, this has to be on brand. It has to have the university logo. It must have the Helvetica font or Arial or whatever font they use. And it's like, that's not how you use TikTok. That's not what that platform's for.
It's true. I remember working with another university a few years ago, and when Snapchat I think still has a place. Snapchat still definitely has a role to play, but I think it was more talked about pre-TikTok days, and we're talking about Snapchat content. It's like, well, actually, what you need to be doing is following the brand guidelines of Snapchat, not of your brand. Yeah, you want to have maybe some sort of crossover, perhaps, but yeah, and that thing about it being the experience, which is the most important.
I think going back to your point just about brand guidelines on TikTok, your community define your brand guidelines on TikTok by what they find funny, what they don't like, what they find educational, what they find interesting, and what they don't respond to. And that what your type of content your community wants. Therefore, you must deliver that kind of content. Keep trying, keep testing. Absolutely.
So there's something there about then that ability or courage to relinquish control as a brand. Now, I think that's a nice kind of segue into talking about kind of, in your view, I mean, we've touched on it somewhat already, but let's spend a bit of time talking about it, which is kind of in your view, kind of what makes great content. I mean, what makes great content in your view? I don't think we'll be surprised by some of the stuff you say. We've already touched on it, but yeah, it'll be interesting to chat about it.
I think it has to resonate. It has to provoke something out of you. That's an emotion, a reaction, a feeling, or just plant a thought in your head. But it also has to feel true to what the brand is. Like, for example, you're not going to have the Daily Telegraph all of a sudden spouting positivity about trans rights, because that's just not their platform. Although it should be, and trans rights are really fundamentally important to everybody, not just trans people. They matter. They should matter to everybody. You know, that's just one example. I think what matters to me individually is that it has substance and it has a meaning and it has a message. And someone has thought about the reason why they're going to post that image on Instagram, or create that TikTok, or post that thread on Twitter, or whatever it may be. There has to be some element of meaning behind it. A lot of what brands put out there, a lot of content you see these days is very empty, it's very shallow, and there's no substance to it. And I think that's what matters.
Is that because ultimately, if you see a place where lots of people are like TikTok, then you go, well, if we are going to go on TikTok, what do we need to do? Well, we need to shift product. So therefore, what do we do? What does the content need to do? Well, of course, the content needs to have something about the product, and surely, but that thing you talk about, experience, is really important. And not to say, brands go toe to toe with Netflix, but there's that thing about, I want to be able to learn something, I want to be able to laugh, I want to be able to cry, I want to be able to think about something. There's brands are in a position to be able to help that happen. So in terms of last month was Pride Month, and there's lots of talk around, lots of brands jumping on Pride Month and changing their logo, and often that being it. Kind of what's your view on kind of, is there a lot of tick box marketing out there, and kind of what does kind of the best kind of Pride content do and look like?
I think a lot of brands are just try hard, and they feel like they have to do something because that's what's expected now. But when they do that, it doesn't come across as genuine. Now, we use the term rainbow washing quite a lot. Now, if you go on social media on the 1st of June during Pride Month, you'll see the vast majority of companies, brands, sports teams, news outlets, whatever it may be, they'll change their profile picture and have a lot of branding for that month all around the progress flag, right? Come the 30th of June, that's gone. It's back to normal. It's almost like gays don't exist, or our community doesn't exist for the 11 months of the year. I think there is a massive problem more widely with brands that are using Pride to push products, to promote their own agendas. A lot of it is very well-meaning, but it doesn't carry through. So, even when you try and launch Pride initiative, or you put your LGBTQ plus team members in the front and center of your content, you're using them as props, and that's not always the best thing to do. You have to dig deeper and unearth stories and have a lot of heart in your content. Now, a lot of brands make empty gestures when it comes to Pride Month, but there are some that do it very well and actually put their money where their mouth is. So, for example, Absolute Vodka, always one of my favorite brands, not because I drink vodka is my preferred drink, but because they do a lot of stuff for the LGBTQ plus community throughout the year. So it didn't happen this year. I think they've done it for the previous years. They launched a limited edition bottle, which raises money for the Gilbert Baker Foundation in America. Now, I've got one of those bottles over there, which I've drank. In fact, tell a lie, it's right here.
Nice one. Yeah,
that's the bottle.
I can confirm it's empty.
Yeah, nothing in it. It actually had some flowers in it the other day, but they all died. But what that does, that raises crucial money, and they don't just do it throughout Pride Month, they do it throughout the whole year.
Yeah, great.
And now that is a brand that stands with our community. Now I take issue when they don't donate profits to LGBT plus charities. They don't donate. They don't have any form of donation. They, you'll walk up and down a high street or go on any website during Pride Month, and they'll have their Pride range, and it just doesn't feel genuine. It feels hollow. It feels, oh, this is a quick way of making even more money. Now, I don't have a problem with well-meaning intentions. I have an issue when they're not thought through properly, and when you don't engage with our community, when you don't engage with your LGBTQ plus staff networks. Because guess what, guys? There's one member of our community working for your brand, whether you know about it or not. We're there. Engage with a focus group. Engage with your local LGBTQ plus community in the city that you're in as a brand. Get guest speakers in during Pride Month. Educate. Use it as a time to share resources. And I think we are starting to move towards a place where brands are starting to understand that. But it's going to take a long time. And you've only got to look at how the world is at the moment. We've seen some brilliant content on TV recently during Pride Month, and, culminating Joe Lycett's big Pride party on Channel 4 this week.
Yeah.
Which my friend Fat Butcher was doing poppers on, which was brilliant.
Brilliant.
But that program was a great showing of education for a lot of people, apart from the fact that they didn't challenge Kelly Holmes on her turf views, which was shocking, but they should have done. But alas, we move. I'm sure they have things that they're doing with her to educate her much better. But, you have brands like Disney who do a lot of Pride stuff, not just during Pride Month, but throughout the year. They donate a lot of money to LGBTQ plus charities. A lot of the Johnson & Johnson brands do great stuff. They donate part of their part of the profits of the Pride bottles throughout the year to I know they do it at the Albert Kennedy Trust here in the UK. I'm not sure what other charities they do it around the world, but they are there. Levi's do some great stuff. Liverpool this year have done their Red Together campaign, which, for a football club,
absolutely.
I'm not a Liverpool fan, and I'm not necessarily the biggest Liverpool. I don't think that much of the club in general, because I don't necessarily like Jurgen Klopp.
I love it. That's another episode.
That's another episode, but that's not a reflection on how well the club do things from an equality and diversity point of view. They are phenomenal. And you've got great allies like Jordan Henderson, who has come out and supported not just gay, lesbian and bisexual people, but he's come out and supported transgender people. He did that during the Euros last summer, when a fan who I may get this completely wrong, but a fan who's non-gender conforming went to the game in makeup and shared his experiences on Twitter, and Jordan quote tweeted that with a message of support. Now we're at a level where people are aware of what the issues are that our community face, and now more than ever, the trans community need our help and solidarity, and we should all be getting behind those, because what the government tried to do is the equivalent of Section 28 back in the late 80s. They're trying to do that now with trans people, and obviously with the good news that Boris is now gone, we just need to move things forward now. But there are examples of campaigns that are absolute stinkers. Like, I'll give you another football team that didn't do very well this year, Norwich City. Now, Norwich have a brilliant LGBTQ plus supporters club, brilliant supporters club. Probably one of the biggest and one of the best in the country. I think it's one of the first. But what they did this year, they just got it completely wrong. They tweeted a video of what looked like a wall with all the discriminative words and homophobic and transphobic slurs that people have encountered, they've seen on social media, they've heard in stadiums, and put it up on a wall. Now, I think it was well intended, but it just got it completely wrong. So from me looking at that, that's them accepting that those words are okay. Now, obviously, they that alerted the fan group, Pride Canaries, and they worked together, and it was solved, and they got it taken down. And I think the rest of their campaign was a lot better.
Giving those words a platform, isn't it? That's the thing. That's the problem. Give those words a platform, and that's a bad thing.
And like when Marks and Spencer's did the LGBT sandwich, which was lettuce, guacamole, bacon, and tomato. I remember it well because I don't really like BLT myself, but I remember seeing that and thinking that's just a bit of a cop out.
Yeah.
Well-meaning in terms of raising money for the Albert Kennedy Trust and the Belong to Youth Services, but don't put our acronym and contextualize it in a completely different way, because it doesn't mean lettuce, guacamole, bacon, and tomato.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
they changed it eventually. It just looked like another corporate box ticking exercise. Now, the biggest one that really irritates me is the NHS flag. The NHS flag. Yeah. Now, the rainbow flag isn't called the rainbow flag; it's called the Pride flag, and it was made by Gilbert Baker, or created by Gilbert Baker back, correct me if I'm wrong, in the 70s, maybe the late 60s. I'm not history. However, that has been taken over by people trying to share their support for the NHS, rightly or wrongly, but that flag isn't for that. The Pride flag is our flag now, which is now the Progress flag, and that's solidarity to people like me, people like our trans brothers and sisters, the LGBTQ plus community in the wider world. And it really bothers me when people say, "Oh, I'm waving the NHS flag. I've got that on my roof." No, you haven't, hun. It looks like you're supporting gay rights here, which you should be. Like, that is a great example of how things have been completely misconstrued. Now, I could talk about
tone deaf, isn't it?
Yeah. That's something completely different, but it's another example of misplacing something that isn't used correctly.
How do brands? Okay, I suppose you touched on some of it already, but how do brands make sure they are getting it right, or do the things that you've talked about?
I think you have to work with external parties, charities, consultants, focus groups, volunteers from those communities. Work with them. Don't produce something and go, "What do you think?" Ask them what matters to them, and then they'll tell you. Because at the end of the day, that's the only way that you're going to get this kind of stuff right. Now, when we did stuff at Aston for LGBT History Month every year, and we got it right because we worked with the LGBT Student Society, we worked with a staff network, and plus we had people in marketing that were LGBTQ plus. So we knew what things would work and what things wouldn't. I think you have to engage, you have to educate, you have to inform each other, and use those people as soundboards.
Goes back to, I suppose, goes back to relinquishing that control again, isn't it? And actually, and you touched on it before in terms of this thing about actually co-producing content. That's the same with if you're working with content creators. I've in fact in previous episode talking to Simon Lucy from an agency called Hype Collective, talking about how their influencer content performs so much better than something that was highly produced. Much of their annoyance at the time, but they realize actually that working with content creators is a big answer to their success. And that was about trusting that creator, that they know the platform and they have something to share, and they can work in partnership with a brand to do that, to create those experiences and help people laugh, cry, learn something, have a think about something, rather than just using them as a vessel, as a media channel, just to distribute a message that just feels a bit awkward.
It comes down to authenticity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a word used a lot, isn't it? And people often take the mickey out of that word, but it's true. It really is true. If it's done right, it's absolutely true.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, nice. George, we could easily chat. We were chatting before we started recording. We could easily chat for much longer, but let's
So good.
yeah, let's finish up on something. Oh yes, that was it. So we were originally we were setting up this episode to actually talk about Eurovision, because you were actually at Eurovision at the time. When I saw that on Instagram, I was like, got to talk to George, even if he's hungover in a hotel room. I want to get a feel for what this the amazing experience of Eurovision. It's nearly happened, and it's totally cool. The main thing is we're talking.
I lost my when we're going to record that episode of the podcast. I think it was 11 a.m. on the Sunday morning after the night of the grand final, and I didn't get in till 6 a.m. and I completely lost my voice. Thanks to the
drinking
Aperol.
That same vodka, drinking the vodka.
No, this is Aperol, so I can confirm that Aperol does that to your throat too.
But it's like we got to talk a bit about Eurovision, and I suppose mainly is what was it like? Watching on TV, and it's such good spectacle, and we like to have it on the TV and try and some years have a bit of a Eurovision party and all that, and just enjoy it basically. What's it like? What was it like being there this year?
It was just absolutely phenomenal. It's just a wonderful, joyous place to be. It's not like going to watch the football at all. And you're amongst the rival fans, obviously, because you wouldn't get on with each other. But you're amongst so many different people from across the continent who are just there to celebrate one thing, and that's music. And the fandom is positive influence on a lot of things. Everyone has their favorites. Everyone doesn't have their favorites. That's fine. But one thing I took away from that was just how joyous it was, and the brilliant atmosphere, and how Eurovision isn't a joke and never has been and shouldn't be thought as that. It's a serious music contest, and yes, it's a TV show first and foremost, but it's also a festival while you're there.
Yeah.
And everyone is there for the same reason, and that's to enjoy the spectacle of what Eurovision is.
And actually, at times, especially over the last few years, divisions that have been brought up, in society, many divisions, some of which we talked about, already, but Brexit and views around COVID and vaccinations and what do you think of a political party, all that stuff. There's Ukraine, there's a whole lot of things there which are out there to try and divide the world, and so anything that can get rid of those divisions is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that was the overriding feeling of this year of being in Torino. Was I think we all knew that Ukraine were going to win by a long shot. And I think some people that are a bit more cynical would say, well, that just brings back the political voting again. And I don't think it is that. I think it's more of a show of solidarity to Ukraine. Now, I know there's a bit of controversy over where Eurovision is going to be next year, and the likelihood of it is that it will be in the United Kingdom, because you can't get 30,000-40,000 people over to Ukraine and guarantee their security. However, there is that overriding feeling that this year was a sense of togetherness and a show of solidarity for Ukraine, and I think that was the overarching thing. And yes, we were there. We had a great time. We got very drunk. We enjoyed all the songs. We met the presenters. We met the artists. Probably met a lot of people who I don't remember their names, and that's where I'll put a full stop on that sentence. But that was the overarching emotion this year, overriding emotion, sorry. And we all felt that we were helping show our best wishes, our solidarity, and our wish for peace for Ukraine, but also a massive middle finger up to Putin, and show that man the bird, flip that man the bird. So, that was what it was like this year. And I think next year will be a little bit similar. I think next year will be a joint thing between United Kingdom and Ukraine. I think we'll see a lot of Ukrainian presenters and artists, which it should be, which is the right thing to do. But also it'll allow the BBC to show off why we still value and love Eurovision and the continent as a whole. And I know that's going to get a lot of flagship was
absolutely.
really upset. That's fine, but that it is what it is.
Still part of Europe. Whatever people say, we're still a European country. And absolutely.
Float into the middle of the Atlantic. It's impossible.
Yeah, that's too right. No, thank you. No, it's been. Thanks for that. It's good to get some time with you. It's been a while since we've caught up. So along with the green room chat, it's been a good time to good chat with you. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend when you get there. Sun's out, so let's make the most of it.
I'm off to the barbers, then I'm going to the wine bar.
So that's enjoy. A nice one. All right, and we'll catch up soon.
Let's catch up with you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, mate. Bye now.
Bye, mate.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the chat. If you did, feel free to subscribe to get future episodes, and please do share the podcast with others. It really does make a difference.